Podcasting offers to extend educational reach more than it offers to improve education itself. Hello mga ka-Elgie! Welcome sa aming channel. Ako nga pala si Ariza Hernandez na miyembro ng #Elgie Family. Kung bago ka pa lang sa aming channel, huwag mong kalimutang mag-subscribe, like, and share ang aming mga videos. So para sa second episode ng ating #LG tutorials, I will be teaching you on what is podcast and how you can use this application on teaching and learning processes. So if you are interested, then please keep on watching. Bago ako magsimula sa ating talakayan, gusto ko muna ikaw tanungin na nanonood or nakikinig ngayon kung nakagamit ka na ba ng podcast. Kung oo ang iyong sagot, comment mo sa comment section ang iyong experience. What is podcast? Podcasting is a means of publishing audio or video content on the web as a series of episodes with a common theme. These episodes are accompanied by a file called a feed that allows listeners to subscribe to the series and receive new episodes automatically. Some people use the term podcast to refer to any distribution of audio or video content on the web. But technically speaking, the feed and subscription model of file delivery is what differentiates podcasting from simply posting files on the web. There are several applications that you can use for podcast or podcasting, and they are Google Podcast, Spotify, Pocket Cast, Castbox, Podcast.co, and Anchor or Anchor. Later, I will show you some features of Anchor application because I will be using this app in our quick tutorial. Comment this emoji if you are an Android user. For Android user, you can use Podcast Addict and Stitcher. And comment this emoji if you are an Apple user. For Apple user, you can use Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Breaker, and Castro. Lang saglit sa inyo kung paano mag-login using Anchor by Spotify. Go to anchor.fm/login and click Get Started. Then, you can see here yung usual na nakikita naman natin pag gumagawa ng account. Just put your full name, email address, and password. So, ilalagay ko lang po yung akin, no? Wait lang. Once done signing up, this is the full overview of Anchor by Spotify. Pero bago ka makaproceed sa paggawa ng podcast through Anchor, you have to first verify your email address. So, you just have to click this link and then, voila, verify ka na. Alright, this is the basic features of Anchor. We have here the record button, library, messages that you can receive from your audience, transition, free music and sound effects, and we have here settings. We have here the episodes, dashboards. Of course, you can see here the episodes that you will upload through your podcast. Oh, kala mo tapos na, no? Di pa. Now that we all know what podcast is, let's now proceed to the next topic, which is podcast in teaching and learning processes. Podcasts offer just unique affordances that differentiate them from other media used for teaching and learning, such as written text and videos. They can be consumed on the move and in non-traditional learning spaces, offering flexibility and mobility beyond text and video-based media. It is also an alternative method of learning which can help to improve student listening skills or auditory learning. Now, how can teachers use podcasts in creating instructional materials? Designing an instructional material in podcast, it is important to first choose an appropriate content. This means that it's better to avoid complex content material which includes lot of images and descriptions. Meaning, as a teacher, kung gagamitin mo yung podcast, through your teaching, dapat yung topic na ituturo mo sa podcast is hindi kailangan ng masyadong visualization. Kasi nga, syempre, ang pinaka-main sensory na ginagamit through podcast is listening. Dapat yung content na ituturo mo through podcast is more on listening comprehension siya. Bawa, hindi talaga maiwasan na magkaroon ng visualization or description ng isang bagay, siguro mas maganda kung magiging specific tayo sa pag-describe. Halimbawa, ang isang babae ang naglalakad ay nakasuot ng pula. Mas maaari nating bagitin through podcast na ang babae ay nakasuot ng pulang bestida na may disenyo itong polka dots, na kung saan mas maintindihan ito ng ating mga estudyante or ng ating mga tagapakinig. In terms of technology, it is low-tech that you can record your own podcast through your computer, mobile phone, or laptop and choose a quiet place for recording. So, syempre, kapag tayo ay nagre-record, dapat ini-ensure din natin na walang masyadong background noise or sasagabal sa pakikinig ng ating mga students or ng ating mga audience. Next, provide an initial message on the first part of the podcast for the students know what will topic or concept will they listen to. So, syempre, sa pagtuturo at sa podcasting, mas naaayon kung magkakaroon tayo ng introductory message or introductory part nang sa gayon hindi nabibigla yung ating mga estudyante sa mga concept or topics na ituturo natin. Be mindful of what words and languages to use. So, syempre, kung gagamitin natin ang podcasting sa pag-discuss, mas naaayon kung yung gagamitin natin mga words ay yung hindi masyadong malalim nang sa gayon, ito ay mabilis na maintindihan ng ating mga estudyante. Personalize your podcast content by mentioning students by name, giving students a sense that the teacher is engaging in direct conversation with them. Be also creative in creating your podcast such as including sound effects and transitions. Okay rin na magkakaroon tayo ng mga sound effects, ng mga transition para nang sa gayon hindi rin naboboard sa pakikinig yung ating mga learners. And lastly, end it with an open statement that will make your learners watch out for the next episode. Next step in creating instructional material is planning. In planning your instructional material in podcast, it is important to plan the schedule, what kind of content are you going to publish, and who are your target audience. For example, as a teacher, of course, your target audience are your students. You have to determine your educational aim and purpose for each podcast you create. For example, some of the most important goals are, first, prepare your students for hearing and learning something new. Mas naaayon kung yung topic or concept na ipaparinig natin sa ating mga estudyante ay bago nang sa gayon maging din natin yung attention nila sa pakikinig. Pose and explain a complex concept. Provide a content that is related with your subject course, current issues or news, and inspirational talks for learners self-development. In selecting your instructional materials in podcasting, you can first listen through your own podcast first before publishing it to your students. Then, choose what is best in audio, hearing, and learning comprehension. So, syempre, ayaw naman natin na bigla-bigla lang tayo magpa-publish ng podcast sa ating mga students na hindi naman masyadong naiintindihan or hindi malinaw yung mga words. Mas naaayon kung ito ay papakinggan mo muna as a teacher, ang sa gayon malaman mo kung okay na ba itong iparinig sa iyong mga estudyante. Podcast provides several topics, series, and concepts to listen to. As a teacher, you can choose what your students could listen in relation with your subject topic and based on your learners. For example, this is Apple Podcast. Makikita nyo dito na marami siyang nakapaloob na mga iba't ibang talk series, mga concept, topics, meron din dito mga current news. For example, TED Talk Podcast. You can assign to your students na makinig sila ng TED Talk series and then make a reflection or reaction to it. Hindi ka rin gumamit ng iba't ibang podcast na kung saan marirelate mo to sa iyong subject course or subject topic. The last step in creating instructional material is to evaluate. As a teacher, a logical way to evaluate your student is to try it out on learners and get their feedback. There are some ways to evaluate your podcast to the learners. First, start by having the students to listen to your podcast. Students need to hear audio, a sample, and what a good podcast sounds like. Second, assign students to create a written work through online on what they heard and understand through your podcast. Gaya ng sinabi ko kanina, pwede kang magpagawa ng short reflection or reaction paper base dun sa napakinggan nilang podcast. Then, with their feedback, podcasts can be improved, and as a teacher, you can embark your students to create their own too in several ways such as audiobook review, news report, personal essays, audio diaries, and speeches. Now, how can students use podcasts in learning? It is tricky to encourage students to watch a documentary film or read an article because it requires full attention of the students. On the other hand, for podcasting, students can study on their own pace, pausing and replaying at parts they need more time on and allows them to multitask. Students can use podcasts in two simple ways, lecture review and missed classes, and they can actually use this in this time of pandemic. In conclusion, whether you're at primary school, high school, college, or university, podcasts can help students of all ages learn. It is also a great way to enhance literacy skills of students, especially younger learners. It is also a great way to make your lessons accessible, engaging, and informative. In virtual learning, it can be used to enhance asynchronous activities. Before I end this video, I will leave a question to you. What are your thoughts about podcasts? Comment your answers on the comment section. So, thank you for watching mga ka-LG and don't forget to #MakeLGProud.